Now, the handshake by President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on the steps of Harambee House 3 years ago would mark the start of a journey to unite the country. The events of that day would birth the Building Bridges Initiative, a task force that would propose amendments to the Constitution. The journey to amend the Constitution has, however, been turbulent. Safina Chengoma looks back at how the handshake has since triggered social, political events in the last 3 years.
Kenya's history during elections has been characterized by conflict and claims of electoral malpractice. This is attributed to its perceived nature of winner takes it all from 1992 to 2017. However, the 2007 election was one of the worst in the country's history, as more than 1,000 people were killed and 600,000 displaced in a disputed presidential election. 10 years after the 2007 violence, in 2017, the country would once again be treated to an election dispute that would end in nullification of the presidential election by the Supreme Court and a fresh election ordered. The political rivalry between the main contenders in the 2017 general elections, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, would be short-lived following a meeting at Harambee House that would end in a handshake on 9th of March 2018. The political rivals turned allies agreed to bury the hatchet and put an end to the cycle of violence every 5 years during elections. It was a truce that political pundits say resuscitated a country of collapse.
Looking at the history of multi-party democracy in Kenya, even just pre-multi-party, where even the former Prime Minister was involved, was violent. You know, the country was balkanized. And then you come now into the implementation of multi-party itself. Again, ethnicity was entrenched, and something was supposed to be done.
The handshake sort of was a strategy that the two contending parties were able to use to unify the country and to also bring down the political emotions to manageable levels. And we can see sort of that it has somehow helped work, because after that the country was able to be unified and things were able to get back to normal.
They add that the handshake depicted the level of influence political leaders have on the electorate, a power that is often underutilized or misused.
We are living in a country where when a politician says do this, people do it. So the political leaders have huge influence in the populace, but they have only used it to acquire power and not to inspire Kenyans into something greater for the country.
The handshake would go ahead to birth the Building Bridges Initiative, midwifed by a 14-member task force led by the late Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji. The task force would then embark on a 2-year journey to collect views from Kenyans with a 9-point mandate on issues that needed to be addressed to end the cycle of violence that included corruption, lack of a national ethos, divisive elections, devolution, safety and security, responsibilities and rights, inclusivity, shared prosperity and ethnic antagonism and competition. But the country's quest for unity had its fair share of disunity among leaders.
The train has left the station. You can catch up, you can run, na tuseme vile tunasemanga kwa Kiswahili udandie.
Sasa wanatuambia the train has left the station and they no longer have the time, the desire and the need to listen to millions of Kenya. Na tunawaambia waende pole pole.
Lakini wanasema safari ya mamba pia kuna kenge. So lazima utasikia tu wengine wakipiga kelele hapo na pale. Sisi hatuangalii nyuma.
Kwa hii, yes or no? Debe iamue. Wananchi wa Kenya waamue.
It is these divergent views that risked negating the country's peace-building efforts through the BBI.
While it was able to unify specific political sectors, there were other sectors that were now moving far, because now it was creating a new political realignment and other people feeling that the handshake was not also part of us. We are not part of this handshake. And this was just a group, this was just meant for two people. What about the other communities?
Maybe they do not understand the genesis of the handshake. Those who claim they are supporting the handshake are looking for an opponent. You know, the opponent is not there. Somebody is not opposing, so you are moving and saying, now you should oppose this BBI because they want it to be a duel and it is good for politics.
Taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda.
Political pundits argue that linking the BBI to the 2022 general elections further watered down the process and gave critics room to read mischief.
It appears that now the handshake is being linked to politics of 2022, and that now blights the whole thing. It makes it dirty, and it is the one that is making it very hard to be translated to the people.
An important aspect to consider, therefore, is the sustainability of the current peace and stability in the country.
The fruits of this handshake is the temporary peace that we have achieved. But how to sustain this peace is another conundrum.
Is it something that is so fragile that if these two people leave again, then we are back to where we were? Because the unity of a country must be on the basis of an ideology. The nationalism, the sense of nationalism that somebody feels that I am a Kenyan.
The pundits also argue that to solve the problem of divisive elections, the country must first shun ethnic and tribal politics.
The handshake realized that aspect of African democracy.
So how do you, in this complex web of social stratum where you have so many multiplicity of ethnic communities with different political identities, how do you create a mechanism that each and every person feels that is a Kenyan? That is the biggest challenge.
It has been 3 years since the BBI train left the station. And as it keeps moving, its proponents hope that it will continue to gain momentum and get to its final destination, in which every electioneering season will not be characterized by bloody disputes. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.